Well, hello and welcome to this Moneycontrol live stream. I'm Nandita and with me I have my colleague Santo. And today we'll be talking about the recent bonus issues from some companies and the volatile movements in the share prices thereafter. Well, two such issues were Nykaa as well as Easemytrip. Now, Santo, much has been spoken about Nykaa's bonus issue since it coincided with the record date for the bonus issue with that of the anchor lock-in period ending for the pre-IPO investors. Now, we saw a crash in the stock prices once the bonus shares hit the investors' accounts, and when we saw Easemytrip coming out with the bonus issue, the shares actually rallied 40% in a matter of days. So now we understand that the regulator is now looking at the timeline within which these bonus issues were credited in the investors' account. Is that what you're picking up?
Well, Nandita, the thing here is that right now there is no fixed timeline for which the shares need to be credited in the shareholders' demat accounts. Now, what companies do typically is that within 15 days they usually credit the shares, but it can vary. So, some companies do it within 3 or 4 days, some take the whole 15 days, and there have been a few instances where the shares are credited beyond 15 days also. So, there is no standard
time when
as such. Okay. So, now what does this lead to? In some cases, the later the shares are credited, it means that there is more volatility in the shares. You see that in quite a few cases. Also, if some shareholder wants to sell the shares, he is unable to do that
because it's not there in his account.
In his account, yeah. Because see, when there is a bonus or a stock split, what happens is the share price reduces. So if it's a 1-for-1 bonus, it means that something worth 50, something worth 100 is now worth only 50, right?
Right.
So unless you're selling for tax purposes, most investors tend to sell the whole quantity if they wanted to cash in on any rise in stock price. Now, that is where there is a proposal. Our sources tell us that SEBI is considering that there should be a standard timeline within which the bonus share should be credited. Now, we are seeing that already for something more complex like the IPO process, where within 10 days the shares are actually credited into the system. So, if it can be done, and more so, it's all done electronically. There's no need why there should be discrepancy from company to company. This will help, definitely help the ordinary investors a lot.
Right. Coming to the current regulations, what are the current SEBI regulations for some of these bonus issues?
So it's slightly ambiguous. So it says that within 15 days from the announcement, the implementation of the bonus should happen. Now, implementation is a little vague. It doesn't actually say that it should actually be credited into the account. Now, there are two kinds. One is either when a company takes a shareholder's approval for coming out with a bonus issue, and the second is when it does not need a bonus. So, the timelines for both are different. The main issue which some of the investors are facing right now, they are saying is that we don't know when the shares are going to hit. So, if we know that within a certain deadline the shares are going to hit my account, and then let's say the share price has moved in the interim, if I know, if there's a certainty, I can also hedge my position in the futures, depending on whether those shares are available for trading in the futures segment. But this is something which is not very difficult. I think so. This is something that the regulator probably will be giving thought to.
Right. So, what do traders and brokers have to say about these bonus issues? I am given to understand that they feel that the companies are trying to rig the prices of stocks.
Not always, but see, bonus as such doesn't make any difference to the fundamentals of the companies. Although companies use the bonus issue because when the share price comes down, psychologically, what happens is
people tend to buy.
No, people feel that okay, this was 100 rupees earlier, now I'm getting for 20 rupees.
20 rupees, yes.
Right? So it may have become cheaper.
Sure.
It has not. Some cases there may be you could make an argument that retail investors would be better off where the share price lower. Let's say for instance MRF is now around 90,000 rupees.
Right.
Now if a investor has only 10,000 rupees and he wants to buy MRF shares, he can't.
He can't buy.
Okay. This applies for some of the other high priced stocks also, like say for instance Honeywell Automation, which is at about 45,000.
Page Industries.
Yeah, Page Industries, right? If you have 10 or 15,000 rupees, but you're very keen on investing there, you won't be able to. So certain cases it does make sense for a company to give issue. It does make it accessible. But sometimes companies also overdo it. They're trying to play on the investor psyche, make
By
it look
making them feel that okay, this is
these shares
cheaper
are now looking
Yes.
cheaper. So and it works usually. You see a run up in the prices whenever a company announces a bonus issue. You see a sudden run up in the prices, and obviously the whole thing at play that now we are going to get it cheaper. But that said, the period after, between the gap from the record date to the date when it's actually
hits the
credited,
bond.
that is where sometimes
The volatility
there is a
takes
lot of
place.
volatility in
Yeah.
the share. Sometimes operators do corner the stock, put it up, then that also has a psychological impact, because once the share price goes up and the investors see that the price has touched a certain high, then they feel okay, we'll wait for some more time. We don't want to sell now because the stock has once. That's a typical investor psychology.
Yeah.
You've seen a certain price and you say that now I'll sell only at that price or more.
Yes, that's true. So analysts still remain very, I would say, positive on some of these new age companies. What are your own thoughts? Have you spoken to any analysts, or what are market participants talking about when they talk about Nykaa and the likes of Paytm?
See, most of them are what you call in market parlance as theme stories. So there is a theme there. The earnings are yet to reflect. Most of them are loss making. Nykaa makes profits, but
Right.
again, not enough profits to justify so high a valuation. But certain investors are comfortable paying that kind of valuations. Ultimately, if you feel that a company will do well, you will be willing to pay those kind of high valuations. So it's always a debate. But till last year, you could be loss making and investors would still be willing to pay any price,
Right.
because the overall sentiment was upbeat. Now that making money in the market has become a little difficult over the last 1 year, investors are saying that, look, I would rather go with companies where I can see some
The
visibility of earning. They are
yeah.
profitable and they'll continue to make profits. Many of the new age companies, in that sense, they've managed to narrow down their losses. That clearly we are seeing in the case of Nykaa, we are seeing in the case of Zomato, we are seeing in the case of PB Fintech as well.
Right.
Companies are narrowing their losses for sure, but again, it's all perception. And at this point, when as I said, most of the shares have been underperforming, you would want to seek safety. You would look for stocks where there is which are already making profits. So I think that is where they are suffering at this point. Investors are questioning the high valuation. They're saying that, look, yeah, the company is good, business model seems okay, but do I want to pay so much for it? Maybe not. But maybe if I see the numbers improving, I'll change my view on that.
Right. So that's about it. It's about valuations when it comes to these new age companies, even though the business prospects are pretty promising. That's the view from the markets, not from us. Well, that's about it in this Money Control live session. For more news and updates, stay tuned to Money Control.